I've been a published author for 2 years and 2 months, and I've been on YouTube for 6 months longer than that. Additionally, I've been a writer my whole life, with periods, of course, where I've spent more time on my career than on writing. But now writing is my career. So what are my goals for this next year? Hi everyone, I'm Shannon, and I write under the pen name of SC Huston, and you're here on my channel. So I do have some goals for 2023 that I'm going to rehash, and then we're going to move into my 2024 goals. And this is a great time of year to re-look at all of these goals. So let's first cover 2023. I do split my goals into 3 sections: writing, authoring, and YouTubing. Which, if you look at the acronym, that's WAY. Never thought about that before, because I've done this now for 2 years. I've done some goals, but this year I'm adding another one. So you'll find out what the S is for in just a little bit. But let's look at what 2023 brought us. So under W of WAYs, which is writing, I set 3 goals for myself. The first one was to write an average of 20 hours a week. And this was a number I pulled out, not just arbitrary, but sort of. So Written Word Media, they did a survey. They did another one this last year too. But the year before, in 2022, they did a survey showing that authors who made a decent living every month wrote an average of 20 hours a week. So I thought, well, I am trying to be a full-time author. I should write 20 hours a week if I want to get to a point where I'm making a decent living off of my writing. So I thought, okay, let's do this. 20 hours a week, but I wanted to minus out vacation and holidays. And I came up with about 7 weeks that I would not be writing and or working on my writing. So that would equal 900 hours. So how did I do? Well, after adding everything together, and I was very meticulous, I tried to be as meticulous as possible to log all of my writing. And I logged all of this by writing down the project I was working on, the time period that I wrote for, and how many words I got done in that time period of writing. So I kept a pretty good log throughout most of the year. I feel there was a couple times that I missed something here or there, but overall, I did a pretty good account for how much I got written and how many hours I was writing. And I did measure those 2 things: how much did I write and how many hours did I write for. Again, my goal was 900 hours, and I got 588 hours and 8 minutes. So I didn't hit my 900 hours goal, but I did get more than half. Half would have been 450, and I got 588. My second goal for under writing was to draft 3 books. My goal for those 3 books were to be the first 3 books in my current series that I'm writing in: A Curse of Scales and Feathers, A Curse of Wings and Gems, and A Curse of Spikes and Smoke. Did I complete that? I did not. The only book that I actually completed was A Curse of Scales and Feathers. Now, obviously, I didn't complete 3 books, but I did write a whole lot on other projects I hadn't even anticipate writing on. So what I did then to look at how many books did I write is I looked at all of the actual projects that were books that I wrote in, and I added all of those words together. And that came to 257,580 words. And then I went through and I did an average of all the books that I have completed. I added all of those and averaged that to see what my average book length would be, because all of my books are different lengths. And that came out to 103,351 and a half words. So I divided the first number by the second number to find out how many books that would be, and it came out to 2.49, so basically 2.5 books. So I did not draft 3 books, but I did get pretty close. All right, and my third goal was to complete 3 short reader magnets, either short stories or novellas, and the main reason was because the reader magnet that I was using before was just the first 3 chapters of my first book, and I didn't have an actual reader magnet, and I did actually complete 3 reader magnets. So I started off with a short story that was published in an anthology, and that was The Lie of the Sunstone and the Hybrid Prince. I felt like this could be a much longer story, so after it was published as a short story and I was using it as a reader magnet, then I created a longer version of it, which became a novella. This was actually part of my Kickstarter campaign that I did in June for A Curse of Scales and Feathers. And then after the campaign was done, I have used it as a reader magnet in a few different places. So that's my second one. So I had 2. The third reader magnet I made is not one that is a reader magnet that you would get to get someone to join your newsletter list if they're a cold reader. It is for a warm/hot reader, because it is a bonus chapter from the first book. So someone would have to get to the end of the first book and would want that bonus chapter and sign up to my mailing list to get that bonus chapter. And that was my third reader magnet. So I did complete that one. So 3 goals for my writing goals. I met one of them. But I have to say that even though I didn't meet the other 2, it was kind of random. The number of 20 hours a week, I didn't know if that was going to be doable or not, because I don't do just writing. I don't just sit here and write all day long. There's a whole lot of other things I do. So I wasn't really sure how feasible that would be, but I'm okay with what I got, even though I didn't quite meet my goals, because it does give me like a baseline to work off of. And I think I figured out that this was roughly 11.3 or 8 hours a week is what I wrote. And that was for 52 weeks, not 45, which would be 45 weeks is what I actually considered that I was going to be writing in 2023 because of the minus the 7 weeks that I took off. All right, so now our authoring goals. My first authoring goal was to go wide with my Clash of Goddesses series. That's a check. I have all of the ebooks out there wide. I am still working on the physical, the paperbacks and the hardbacks, but I am wide now with it. So check on that one. Number 2, spend an average of 5 hours a week marketing. I didn't track myself. And I should have known I probably was not gonna be able to track it when I was trying to track like everything else with the writing, because writing was my number 1 priority. But I do remember in my video, I talked about 3 things specifically. One was to move to a new email newsletter provider because when I was paying for it was a lot. And the other 2 were to learn Facebook ads and do more Amazon ads. The only thing I did not do was to learn Facebook ads. I did move to a new email provider. I set up several different new automations I was able to do that I couldn't do with my last email provider. And I did create more Amazon ads. All right. And then the third goal under authoring was to publish 1 to 2 books. And I remember in the video I said, if it goes well, I have a secret plan for how I want to publish my books. If it went well, that I would only publish 1 book. And if it didn't go well, then I'd publish 2. Well, it did go well, which is probably part of the reason why I did not finish a second or third book writing, because it did take a lot of time. And that was my secret publishing project, was a Kickstarter, which I was afraid to say last year because I didn't want to jinx myself. But I did the Kickstarter. It was successful, but there was a lot to learn. There was a lot of setting up, and then there's a lot to the fulfillment. So it was a huge learning curve, which took a lot of time from me working on writing. But I did publish that 1 book, so that is a plus there. And if I was to say, publish 1 to 2 books, but I also did publish the short story and I published the novella. So I am happy about that. The novella was published, I think, in March. Curse of Scales and Feathers, published with Kickstarter in June, end of June. Well, it came out in July. It finished in July, so that's when it went out, or July, August. August is when it went out to everybody. And then in December, I published the novella. So I did publish 3 things, just not 2 books. But it's still a plus because I said 1 to 2 books, got the 1 book done. All right, next was my YouTubing, and I had 3 goals here. My first one was produce and host the 2023 AWC. That was a plus, got that done, check mark. 2, spend less time on video creation. That's another check. I spent a whole lot less time on video creation. And then 3, do daily or near daily live streams during nano months. And that was, leave that alone. And that was also done as well. All 3 nano months, I did near daily live streams in all 3 months. And so those are checked. So all my YouTube goals were check, check, check. I got of my authoring goals, I got 2 of them fully checked off, but the 5 hours a week on marketing, again, I didn't measure that very well. So, or at all really. So can't really say anything for there. And then for my writing goals, I only got 1 completed, but I did make progress on everything I did not complete, and I'm happy with it. So now let's move into my 2024 goals. I was able to work off of what I was able to do in 2023 and figure out what I wanted to do for my goals in 2024. And I have changed these a little bit. I've added a 4th header of goals. So instead of just authoring, writing, authoring, and publishing, I'm adding self-care. So that's where your ways. I did not make 3 goals for each of these like I did last year. I did 3 goals for each of the 3 spots. Made this a little bit different. My first one, writing goals. So I looked at, instead of doing hours, how about I do words? So that way I can shoot toward, making a little bit more, getting a little bit more all together. Again, I'm not going by hours this time. I'm still going to track. I'm going to track everything the same way as I did last year. I'm going to track by my project, what task I'm doing, what part of the writing process, whether it's outlining, brainstorming, drafting, editing, revising. I'm still going to track the number of words I write and the time period that I'm writing it in. So still going to track all that. What I was able to do for 2023 words was 314,666 words. That was the total words I was able to get done for the year. So my goal this time, I'm going to do a word goal, and that's 400,000. I really, really want to do 500,000 because it'd be cool to say I did 500,000 in a year, but I do think that'd be pushing it too much. I even considered doing 450,000, but I still think that would be pushing it, because with 400,000, that is getting 85,000, just over 85,000 more words in a year. Looking at the rest of my goals, I don't know that things are going to change too much with everything else. So I have to figure out where something's going to give so I can get those extra 85,000 words in. Okay, so for my writing goals, that's it. Just 1 goal, hit 400,000 words in the year. Number 2 is my authoring goals. Here is where I have the most for authoring goals this year, because I did do a lot of writing last year on a lot of different projects. Altogether, the number of projects I worked on was 11. This included books, this included short stories, this included the novella, and even a nonfiction book that I started on. So I had 11 projects altogether that I did start working on last year. A couple of those I completed. I completed the short story for The Sunstone and the Hybrid Prince, or Lives of the Sunstone and the Hybrid Prince, and then I completed the novella, The Sunstone and the Hybrid Prince, Akosaf, which is A Curse of Scales and Feathers. I finished that project. And I also finished a short story that was something I'm not going to publish. It might be something I give to readers one day if I have like a following who wants to read everything I've ever written, because this one I just wrote to practice skills. It's an okay short story, but so there's another short story that I finished last year that I'm not sharing or publishing anywhere. And then there's also the bonus chapter that I did for the reader magnet for my first book. So I did finish those 4 things of the 11. That doesn't mean that I have, what is 11 minus 4? 7. So I do have 7 more projects I'm still working on that I want to finish up. So of those, I do have 4 that I want to finish. My first goal is to publish Akosaf and publish it wide. And so I have already published it in a sense with the Kickstarter. It's already published, but it's not published wide. So come end of January, it is going to be published wide on all platforms. That will be done. And this is something that's already set up, so it should be good to go. Number 2 is do 1 to 2 Kickstarters for Akawag and Akosas. So Akawag is the second book, which is The Curse of Wings and Gems. And then the second one, Akosas, is A Curse of Spikes and Smoke. So I'm hoping that I can do at least 1 Kickstarter, if not 2. We'll see how that goes. It really just depends if I get the third book done. And I have actually started writing on it because there was so much in my mind of what was going to happen. And actually the second and the third book, they cross over more heavily with each other than the first book cross over within any of the other books. All right. And then number 3 is I want to publish my nonfiction book. It is almost done. I just have not had the time to sit down and finish my nonfiction book. But I do have a nonfiction book that I started writing last year, and I want to finish that and get it published. I also want to publish a project that I call TMB. It is something I don't know if I'm going to publish under my name that you guys know me of, under the pen name of SC Huston, or if I want to do a different pen name and just put it out there, because it's kind of like a project that's... It's a little bit different than everything else, so I'm not sure if it really fits in with what I'm doing with the rest of my work. I mean, there are some parallels, so I don't know. I haven't decided on that one yet, but I've already bought the book cover. I'm finishing up parts of the story still. I hope to get that done and published next year. Okay, YouTubing. I have 3 goals for YouTubing. Produce and host 2024 AWC. That's going to be a plus. That one's almost checked off as is because we do have most of our speakers and applications in already. That one is probably good to go. Number 2, continue my accountability streams. When I cut back on video creation this past year, that was, recording like right now and then editing it and making it look pretty and jazzy and all that, and then scheduling it and everything like that. I want to cut down on that because that just takes so much time. But my accountability streams were very helpful for me. I still want to continue my accountability streams. I don't know what that's going to look like exactly throughout the year, but I am going to continue those. I'll be doing some most months. Number 3, and this is the last goal for YouTube, which is to continue my podcast. I didn't put this into any goals last year, but I'm going to continue my podcast, and that will continue. The podcast is Self-Publishing Tips and Tricks, and that is myself with Ben Pick from Running to Write and Morgan Lee. Those are the 3 main goals: writing, authoring, YouTubing. For self-care is the last one. I have 2 goals, and the first one is to take 8 weeks off. So I scheduled in 7 weeks off from writing last year. Those weeks off from writing were not all vacation times. So those 7 weeks did include some vacation time, but I think I also included like a week in there that was the authortube writing conference, knowing I was not going to be able to write that week. So I'm still probably not going to be able to write that week when it comes to that, but I want to take 8 weeks of vacation. I've already taken 2 weeks off here at the beginning of the year. I'm going to take 2 weeks off at the end of the year. So there's my whole month. I'm also going to be taking 2 weeks off in July because I'm going to be traveling to Europe with my family. We're going to take a family vacation. And then I think I'm going to take 1 week off in March and 1 week off in September or October. And that will give me some vacation time every quarter, which I think will be better for my mental health and taking care of me. And then my second goal is to move more. And that really comes down to the fact that I spent so many hours just sitting here at the desk, working. And that's not good for a body. Now, I do go to the gym 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I go, and that's good for me, but I feel I need to move more throughout the day. I have some ideas of things I can build in and try to work on. I'm going to do my accountability streams, but I thought, every hour at the beginning of accountability ability stream of that hour, then I will just move more. So that's one idea I'm thinking of. I have actually scheduled an extra day every week in January to meet with my trainer. So there's that extra day and getting that in there. But I'm just testing out for January to see how I feel, because I don't want to get stressed out thinking about my workload and what I need to get done. But I do know I need to move more. Those are my 2024 goals. I'd love to know what goals you are working on, and how do you separate your goals out like I do? I mean, it helps me to separate out like this. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and happy writing.